Yeah, this is my first time doing a 2-week hotel arrival quarantine.
I tried to stretch, I tried to learn a choreography. Marshall, I get there, I promise.
My name is Jarrett Cody. I am the infection control monitor for Opera Atelier's production. We have N95 masks for them and face shields and eye protection to wear as well. Then we talk about what their day is gonna look like here in the theater and some of those policies. So I'm gonna be here every single day. Hi, how are you? Good, good, good. Are you here with Opera Atelier?
Hey, I'm Zach. I'm the director of production at Opera Atelier. It's pretty surreal to be here in Easter season, bringing Resurrection to life again. The revivification, the resurrection of Resurrection, was planned again for this spring. Today would have been the day that we would have set up for filming, and we would have had to finish this week.
We were lucky that we had Koerner Hall already booked for filming. And then when things had to be delayed because of the lockdowns, it meant that we shifted plans and we're doing our recording here in Koerner Hall because we're taping our music, the audio sections, ahead of the filming so that when we come to the filming, the singers don't have to have masks on, but they won't sing it, they'll just lip sync to their own voices. Usually, of course, we're working staging and music together. And they get to inform each other, and Marshall and I will talk, and he'll say, oh, I would really love this to slow down here, or I'd say this needs to go a tiny bit faster, and we always come to some arrangement, which is great, and then we know it'll all work together.
But Dr. Mixer, again, is the very first thing we hear. Throw us a curve, don't evil right away. You can't congratulate. It's a huge number of people coming to congratulate. This is great.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're a bad guy, but you won. This is one of the things that gives us some humor in this. Because later you're so raw and you're so inflated. So it's just great! That must be for me. They're coming to congratulate.
Qual insolita luce squarcia le mende alla tartara notte.
Yeah, I pulled Marshall aside specifically because Marshall and I haven't talked yet about Lucifer. We haven't talked about this character and Marshall's concept. I want to hear what Marshall has to say so that I can bring that characterization into the recording. Because we're going to end up staging this, the characterization has to be in the voice already of what the action will eventually be. So we're working completely backwards, but that's the hand that's been dealt to us, and we'll make it work.
Well, at the moment we're outside Koerner Hall, and what could be a more beautiful place to rehearse in and to experience this wonderful resurrection of this production. One of the most beautiful concert halls, and acoustically one of the finest concert halls in the world.
So my husband and I met at the Royal Conservatory of Music when we were both students here. And that was about 10 years ago.
It just gives back to you. It's like being inside a violin. It's like being inside a guitar. The singers love it. The dancers love it. Everyone loves it.
Acoustics is a bit of a science and a bit of a guessing game. So we have a shoebox style shaped hall, which is considered the best. And we have great materials that our architect put in, so the thickness of the wood. All the materials are there to bounce sound and reflect and refract sound.
You know, our other venue is also marvelous, St. Lawrence Hall. It's one of the most historic buildings in Toronto. The room that we're rehearsing in, the Great Hall itself, was the great center of all social life in Toronto in the late 19th, very, very early 20th century. It certainly is the first time it will have been used in the way that we are using it. And I think it gives that wonderful old building a whole new lease on life. We're another part of the history of that fantastic, beautiful old structure.
Easy. Now gentle, heavy. That's better. Easy, easy. Yes. Much better.
In some of the dances, the spacing changed a little bit, so maybe we are in another part of the room than we were originally supposed to be in. One dance was cut entirely.
Working under the protocols has been challenging, creatively challenging in terms of the distancing, but that's been interesting, and I hope that the choreography, which I had done long before COVID happened, I hope the way I've changed it has maintained all of its integrity.
Okay, so Tyler, would you just give us a little demonstration? So, and so Keelan, there are a couple of things to watch for. So Tyler, just talk us through it. Ta, ta. So it is two circles, isn't it? Ta, ta, ta. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yes.
So you leave it here?
Yes.
Because before we were running and they're doing a step.
Yeah. Correct, I see. Okay,
Or
so
some
then
more,
we'll just...
we could bring it back and do.
What I really want to feel is that I'm looking at the sky. Yes, and then someone walks through the sky and they're visible. So I'm not so interested in the people manipulating it. It's maybe a little bit, but it's material more than anything. Okay, good. Thank you. Come! And beautiful position. Good, okay, that's great, that's great. That's looking very good, very good.
So the freight elevator has stopped working.
It almost feels like there's a lot of choreography that we have to do now with COVID almost, like trying to choreograph how we are doing load in and doing strike with having to be socially distant, even laying dance floor. Normally we are a meter apart or closer, and now we have to figure out how to lay dance floor being a lot farther apart.
Disclaimer, some of these crew members live in the same household. So what we've done is it's called undertaping because we've got all of Gerard's beautiful painting on the top. What we do is we run a piece of tape along the edge and then bring the other piece forward and lay it on top so that it isn't covered by hideous gaff tape.
This is an Opera Atelier invention here, and it goes back to our first production at the Art Gallery of Ontario. If you go into the Walker Court, the floor in the Walker Court is made of stone slabs that are 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet. And when we first worked in there, we taped out a grid following the dimensions of the stones in the floor, so 3.5 by 3.5. And Jeanette Lajeunesse Singh, our choreographer, used this as a grid for the dancers to follow when they were dancing. We've used this ever since. I'm Gerard Gauchi, and I'm resident set designer at Opera Atelier. So this is my half-inch scale model of the Elgin Theatre. and it's been constructed to the exact proportions of the Elgin. These are models that I make. Sometimes if I'm having things constructed, I will make a physical scale model. I'll make it and paint it. These are flying machines. You know, this is a small flying machine that someone could sit in. This is a larger flying machine. Sometimes they work together on stage. If 15-year-old Gerard walked into this studio, he would think he'd died and gone to heaven. For me, as a designer working in this studio, I'm lucky. I'm here alone. The projects I was working on have slowed down and been delayed in some ways, but I can still keep working on them. I can work on my own things at the same time. If you're a performer, if you have no one to perform to, that's a big problem.
So that's it. The last look around before we pack all of this up. But I refuse to say goodbye to this production. Stay tuned. We'll come back to it sooner than you would think. A year ago, we thought we were 3 weeks from producing The Resurrection in a theater with all the bells and whistles. I would never have believed a year later I would be talking about it now like we are. We were 2 weeks into rehearsal. It was thrilling, it was exciting, things were going extremely well. And Jeanette and I received a message that one of our dearest friends, who used to be the executive director of Opera Atelier, Patricia Barato, she had gone to Chicago to the Harris Theatre for Music and Dance, a very important position.
She in fact held the highest position of any woman in America in theater for some time.
We had known that she had had cancer for 4 years, but it was one of those things you started to feel as though it could go on forever, that she could live with cancer for her whole life. Something suddenly turned, and we were told if we wanted to see her, we would have to come at once. So already something incredibly strange, this beautiful, beautiful production. And we put everything on hold. We flew out the next day and went to see Patricia. We came back and had about another 4 days of rehearsal and received the news that Patricia had passed away. We closed down again, got onto a plane, and Patricia, the last time I saw her, she asked if I would deliver a eulogy at her funeral, which was just crazy. It was just the most difficult thing. But it was very much like her. You know, Patricia always liked to push people and make them do things that were difficult for them. She knew exactly what she was doing.
He went so far over and above anything that was required of her job. We could trust her with anything. And she encouraged us to always grow and grow and grow, and nothing was too much for her. She took care of us. She encouraged us. She was just an angel herself.
So you can imagine, emotionally, we're already up here. And I think we were 1 day into rehearsal. Halfway through the day, I got a phone call. The executive committee of my board of directors saying, close the rehearsal down immediately, send everyone home, everything stops, it's a state of emergency. So it was a horrifying thing. I had to go into the rehearsal room and say, rehearsal's over. I don't know what's happening, I don't know when it will start again. Everyone sent away, and we literally walked out of the rehearsal room, leaving everything as we had just been using it.
So we actually just walked away from the rehearsal hall completely, and it sat empty in the Elgin for I think over a month before we were able to just stick it all in storage until now. I think I was one of those naive people who was hoping that 2-week thing would have been real, which, here we are a year later, but I think reality set in about a month in when it was oh, this will be a while.
Opera Atelier was one of the first things, unfortunately, that had to be canceled. I remember long conversations with Marcel and company about, and this was early days of COVID. Do you think we'll be able to go back in 2 weeks? How about 3 weeks? Well, what if we do this? What if we do that?
At that time, everything was being canceled. When things started shutting down, I just went, well, do you know what? I understand why this is happening. It's really important. There are more pressing things right now than me getting up on stage.
We thought it would be like SARS, that it would be devastating and then it would go away. And the Rolling Stones would come and play a huge concert at Downsview, right? That didn't happen. It still hasn't happened.
About this time last year, I actually snuck out in our lunch break of our first rehearsal to do my first ultrasound for my now beautiful 5.5-month-old daughter. And here we are a year later, and it feels like literally the world has just changed so much.
Yeah, there was a point where I was like, oh my God, do I have to transition from dance? Like, is this the time that I'm gonna have to do that?
I got to the point when we shut down and I had lost 54 concerts. And so I was like, maybe I should brush up the old computer programming skills or something. And
I was in a wait and see holding pattern. I would have been happy to do it with an audience, but I wasn't counting on it just from reading the newspaper.
I think with all of the conferences and with the lockdown continuing and theater kind of being left out of the conversation of the reopening process, it was really hard to watch all of that.
To me, one of the great tragedies of this whole situation, the whole COVID world, has been artists being denied the opportunity to be able to pursue their creative endeavors. A true artist who is out of work is not just someone who is out of work. It means a part of themselves is cut off.
Very frustrating being an artist unable to practice your art. I mean, I suppose it's fine singing in your shower or for your friends online on a Zoom call or something, but it doesn't have the impact or the energy that performing on stage does.
I was lucky enough to be a part of Something Rich and Strange that Opera Atelier did earlier, and the excitement of having a reason to sing, having a reason to practice, I couldn't have articulated it at the time, but it was really special.
Then there was the whole question of when could we come back? We thought, it'll be a matter of weeks. It'll be a matter of months. And as you know, there were many, many false starts. We suddenly thought we'll be able to get it ready for this date, ready for this date. We kept renegotiating with agents, renegotiating with singers, renegotiating with our dancers, with Tafelmusik, with the theater. It was so complicated, it was so fraught, it actually got to be sort of ridiculous, like the theater of the absurd.
You got really good at rolling with the punches, that's for sure.
Things would change within 24 hours, and I would just have to get used to that.
Everyone has been spectacular. The amount of schedule changes that we've thrown on people, like just for this remount for this year, we are looking at 50 different schedules.
I felt a real responsibility, we've all felt a responsibility for each other, that we have to find ways to make certain that these artists can continue to create and interpret for their own emotional health.
With Marcel at the helm, the show must go on.
When we finally heard Toronto this time had moved into the gray zone, and what that meant, that it meant that we could actually start, the ball could start rolling. We were all primed and ready to go. And we took off like a cannon. There was no time to get into this gradually. You know how little time we have even to get this documentary out in time for Easter, let alone the entire piece as well. Everyone has to think on their feet. No one can be precious. No one can be thinking about, am I in my best shape or not in my best shape? We're giving what we've got. We're lucky to be here.
So it's really nice to be back, doing something and talking to other people. Feeling some stress, it's really nice, after so long of none.
I just had a couple of violinists come up to me and say, it's overwhelming. We've been practicing at home, we've played some concerts, but to actually be making music with these singers, listening to each other, working together, it's, you forget how important it is. You forget what a visceral experience it is, what a healing experience it can be.
Good.
I feel very fortunate to be working with performers and being able to be part of something that gives them an opportunity to be working.
Oh, I'm really excited. It was like, oh, because we were supposed to start in February. That was our original plan. Then that got bumped and got locked down. So it was so nice to get back.
Again, Marcel, I think he's always keen to find not only a way, but a way that will make people comfortable and will, I think, set a standard for how we could do this in a time that's this crazy.
I think there's so many arts companies who haven't been able to continue working and so many artists that are not. And again, it's that commitment to saying there's a way, what is it? And for all of us, we're in our masks and our shields and doing everything we have to do to pull it off. But everyone's so committed, and so grateful that we can work and do this work.
I want to make certain that we take the time to thank our audience members, our patrons, all the people who love us. This is a love letter to you. This is for you. And it gives us so much pleasure to be able to do this. We couldn't have done it without you. So thank you. Take this personally. It's yours.